So we are going to talk a little bit first about some of the sections deeper, just to understand better what are the questions asking for. Then we are going to review one of the common mistakes for the last year that is related to the budget. And I'm already seeing some of the questions related to how to calculate the budget in the chat. So we are going to have time for that. And finally, Billy is going to share some ideas about the new sections that has been implemented for this round 2. So if we go to the next slide, please, Sarah. As we have seen with Rachel, these are all the sections you have to complete. The Flexi Grant is very useful to check how are the progress in each section. And you have seen also, you have this checklist to review that you have done everything what is required. So if we start with the next slide, it's section 1, contact details. That could sound very easy and simple, but we received a lot of questions about that last year because it's important to understand the difference between lead organization, lead applicant, and project leader. So the lead organization is going to be the organization who will administer the grant, coordinate the delivery of the project, and accept the terms and conditions of the grant. In case that you win this grant, the lead organization will be responsible for the project delivery and the budget management. The lead applicant is the person who leads on the development of the application and supporting materials and will be the main project contact point during the application process. So the lead applicant should also be the person that signs and submits the application form. And finally, we have the project leader, who is the person who will lead the implementation of the project and ensure that the project fulfills the terms and conditions of the grant. Just to keep in mind that the project leader can be the same person that the lead application, and there is a preference for the project leader to be a staff of the lead organization. So all these definitions are also in the guidance, so you can understand that better. But the idea is to identify who is the lead organization, who is the lead applicant, and who is the project leader. So let's move to the next section, project information. And this is more detailed about how are you planning your project. So the project title is simple, but it's going to be so useful if that title ensured to be specific in the title, so the reader knows what your project is about. So it's more help. It's very useful to just read in the title to understand much about the project. Then the project summary, that it's going to be shared in the Ocean website in case you get the grant. Project country, it's important to differentiate which one is the primary country that it's going to be the main place of activities. And then you can share some secondary countries that are where some activities or impact may occur, but it's not the focus of the project. Then you have to identify the key project targets. This is the people that the project's anticipated to support, and what are some of your key environment impact. And this can be linked to your theory of change. Finally, you have to specify about the project date. As Sarah has said, the project should start at the end of this year, and you have to just share in the form when you expect that the project to finish. Finally, you have this project budget summary. That is it's important to recognize that the annual value of your budget must not exceed the 50% of the lead organization's annual income. And we are going to work on that later. But it's in your application, in the project information, I think that if it's possible, ensure to mention if supporting or partnering with a marginalized community, because that's going to be a key component of your project, of your proposal project. Also, if it's possible, provide detailed information on the specific beneficiaries, noting that women and girls and people with disabilities, indigenous people and local communities or other marginalized community members will have a special focus. In section 4, we have a focus on the project approach and design, and you will find all the questions that we are looking for you to answer to let us understand better about the project. all the questions have information about what are we expecting from the questions, and also they are better explained in the guidance. So first of all, for your project design, we look for you to explain what is the current situation and the problem the project is trying to address in terms of marine environment and its relationship with the multidimensional poverty. So it's important for us so that you can understand, that you can share with us what is the context of the situation that you want to face with your project. And it's very important to share in the project how is the marine environmental issues and the poverty, multidimensional poverty problems are faced. And it's also important not to explain it in the separate ways, but also to try to find a way of how both ideas are connected in your project. Then the project description is gonna be related to how is your project going to address the problem that you explained in the question before. And it's important here to specify when it's relevant, specify how women, youth, people living with disabilities, or other marginalized community will be included as beneficiaries and stakeholders. Then you can share with us some evidence for your project is based on. We are going to talk about the evidence later, but evidence is just how can we identify that the context and the problems and the proposals and solutions that you are sharing with us are registered or are just sustained by the evidence we can find. Then there are going to be two questions related about the change that you expected in the short and long term. One of the questions is focused on the change in marine environment, and the other question is the change expected in multidimensional poverty. But in both cases, you will see that we ask to connect with the other aspects. So in the case of the change in marine environment, we also want to find how you, or to read about how do you connect that with the multidimensional poverty? And in the case of change in multidimensional poverty, we also want to see how is this connected to the marine conservation proposal that you, or change that you are identifying in your project. So we have collected some questions and ideas that we think it's going to be useful for you just to use as a brainstorming for the beginning of the design of your proposal. So in your application, as we said, you will be asked to describe the current situation of and the problem that your project is trying to address. So some of the ideas to keep in mind to develop this current situation is thinking about if all projects should, because all projects should engage with the relevant stakeholders and how they will deliver the change. So also consider how your project could contribute to wider program objectives, as we said, in marine environment and multidimensional poverty. Explain what problem will you address. Thinking about what are the key drivers or root causes of the problem. I think that this is a point that it's going to be also very useful to have evidence. What has or has not worked in the past or in other similar contexts, to take in mind if someone has already tried to find solutions for that and what has worked and what not. Who is affected by the problem, and does it affect different people in different ways? So that questions could be useful for you to just start to think about all the design that you are planning. And where possible and relevant, provide information about the JETSI consideration related to the current situation and the problem your project aims to address. As we have been says, I think in all the webinars, JETSI focus is very important in this round, and as much as you can identify all the JETSI aspects in your proposal, it's going to be better. So marine conservation, multidimensional poverty, and equality and inclusion are intricately connected, and strong proposals will show their understanding of this connection. So multidimensional poverty, marine conservation, and JETSI should be connected through the proposal. And related about the design of the project, like how to describe your project, here are some questions that could be also useful. So thinking about what do you think is the best way to address the problem? How will the project achieve this, and what kind of activities need to be carried out? How will the project promote equitable participation and benefits for persons of different gender and social characteristics? What resource, people, and equipment will you need? That's also very important to calculate the budget you will need. What potential problems or risk may affect your delivery? And how can you mitigate and manage these problems or risk? How will you know whether your project has been successful? How are you going to measure the impact? And review if your project do no harm. Think through your activities to make sure they don't have unexpected negative consequence on people or environment, and promote the long-term sustainability in your project. So section 6 is also quite easy to understand. It's about the project partners, but also we received some questions to clarify the difference between the partner organization and the stakeholder. So for a partner organization, that's going to be an organization that has a formal governance role in the project. So they are going to be involved in the design and implementation of the project, and that may involve some staff codes or budget management responsibilities. In the case of the stakeholders, that are organizations or individual that does not have a budget management or a formal governance role, but they can be considered as consulted or engaged and may participate in project activities. So the stakeholders is people who come support you also in the design, just asking them or be consulted, and they are going to participate in the activities, but they don't have this governance role that we are assigning to the partner organization. So for the partner organization, you have to provide a support letter for each of them, and you have to merge all of the letters you collect from your organizations and upload them as just one PDF. And if it's relevant, mention the specific experience or expertise that your partner organization has related to JETSI. So sometimes partnership is very useful to find other organizations that could bring and implement different skills and ideas in another fields like JETSI to make your proposal stronger. Let's move to the next slide, please. Okay, section 7 is about terms and conditions and attachment. So the most important here is to read the terms and conditions before applying. And because these are the rules and regulations that you will have to follow if successful. So here is, even if you don't have the grant yet, I think it's a very important step to just be sure that you are ready to compromise with these terms and conditions in the future if you get the grant. So in the case of the legal status of the lead organization, you have to upload a copy of your organization's registration certificate or certification of registration or incorporation. For those applications who are under 100,000, that that certificate could be replaced by a letter of support from the host government or British Embassy or High Commission. But in both cases, it should be uploaded to the FlexiGrant platform. In the case of the organization's financial accounts for the past 2 years, you are required to upload financial accounts covering the last 2 financial years. And for projects over £100,000, this must be either audited or independently examined accounts. So thinking about that financial accounts, the financial records and reports prepared on an annual basis to provide a clear and transparent account of your organization's financial activities. Then that should should include a comprehensive set of financial statements to provide a clear and transparent picture of your organization's financial health and operations. Just try to find a schematic way of share with us these financial accounts to make it easier for us to understand, because that's going to be reviewed as part of the requirements at the very beginning of your proposal. Then also please keep in mind that an independent examination of accounts is a review of an organization's financial records by a qualified person who checks that the accounts are accurate, properly prepared, and comply with relevant laws and regulations. It is less detailed than an audit and is typically used by smaller charities of organizations. And then an audit is a detailed check of an organization's financial records by a trained person to make sure they are correct, follow the rules, and show the true picture of the organization's finance. It is a more complete check than an independent examination.